my trauma for me when I was a child started with my mother. She is an alcoholic, has always been an alcoholic. And so I just never got my needs met as a child with my mother being an alcoholic. I didn't experience any sexual abuse as a young child. That didn't happen till later on. But my childhood just wasn't normal. And when I was about 14, my grandmother who helped raise me, she passed away. I was dating a boy and in love at 14, and he died. And my dad moved out of state. So all that happened like within a 3-month period. And what I had found was that marijuana and alcohol numbed all those feelings that I didn't know how to deal with. My family home, it wasn't where I could go home and tell my mom how I felt, or didn't at the time in school have a counselor to go to that I knew of. So I just had no outlet to talk about those feelings. So I had all these feelings I didn't know how to deal with, but I did know I could numb them. And I just used for about 17 years and tried about 20 treatment programs and came to Thistle Farms in 2013. And it changed my life. My healing began there because of the love without judgment in the community and the way that everybody loves you until you can love yourself. And by being in that community, it has taught me how to be a mother. I have 3 beautiful children. I purchased my first home back in October. I drive a minivan. And I married an amazing man, and I didn't know they existed until I came to Thistle Farms. I was addicted to abusive relationships and never had the self-worth until I came to this amazing community. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say one of the things that has helped me in my journey are essential oils. I had to kind of throw that in there. Our roll-ons, especially I have an 11-year-old, I have a 9-year-old, and I have a 3-year-old, and they are all girls. And so on a daily basis, I am faced with am I being a good parent today? Am I being a good coworker today? Am I being a good wife today? And I need some balance in my life, and just learning how to juggle all those different things. I only have about 4.5 years in recovery, which really, for as long as I used it, isn't that long. So, it's still a daily practice, and I have to, have my rituals, and essential oils is one of those rituals for me. And we have roll-ons that you can roll on your skin, and the essential oils are self-regulating. So whatever your body is needing, they give to you. So at any given moment, who knows what I'm needing? So I just use them all day long. But you can even pull the cap off and dump it on you if you need to. There is a way to get more out of this bottle. But what really is amazing to me is being able to come and travel with Becca and come to events like this where we're able to share our stories, because that's healing for me also. Being able to sit in front of a wonderful group and share my truth and share my healing is something that helps me be a better person than I was yesterday. And I'm just so grateful to be on stage with such wonderful women and gentlemen. Yeah. And just thank you all. Well, we are not going to be here for the length of the conference. So we will be leaving probably around 5 or 5:30 today. But we definitely want to see you guys stop at our table. We'd love to chat with you. Really looking forward to being with you guys.
Thank you. I'm sure both of you have questions. I'm going to take moderator's prerogative and jump in with a quick question because I have a lot of them. Something that you said and something that occurred to me while listening to both of you is how important telling the story is. I'm a journalist. Journalists don't just go out and gather facts and spit them back out at you if they're good at what they do. Journalists are storytellers. And it's, again and again, I'm struck by how important story and narrative and framing is and how hardwired we are as humans. I think we evolved this way to tell stories to each other. Mm-hmm. Where does storytelling fall in a healing process?
For me, it first started for me was telling my story to my sisters and, the administrators at Thistle Farms when I came into the program. And then as time goes on, being able to speak at different events, that has also been helpful to me. But it started when I first came into the program, and then they also let you do therapy. So, just telling your story to a therapist is helpful as well.
Other thoughts on the role of telling a story in addressing addiction and recovery?
Well, for me, I kept quiet for so long. And to be honest, I didn't tell my story until I got to Thistle Farms. It was a secret. Mm-hmm. I kept many secrets. And so it was very healing to be able to tell my story. And I started out with just one person and two. And until I was able to just really share in community at Thistle Farms. And like Christian said, it's no judgment. And to come to find out that we were more alike than different, most of us, and had similar stories, then it made me to really open up. And then, so they gave me an opportunity to heal. Now, like Kristen said, coming out telling the story is healing too. But it's very important that I tell my story because I know that there's always someone in the audience that can relate to me. Mm-hmm. And it might not be them, but it might be a family member or a friend.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts on that topic?
I just say that all the work that I've done, the storytelling is so key, particularly for women, and probably for men too, but particularly for women. I have the great privilege of working with the Nobel Peace Prize laureates, the women who've won the Nobel Prize, and we work on violence against women and girls. And we went to the Congo, which is the rape capital of the world, and the women there, because of the stigma of rape in that culture and the intensity of the war, had never spoken their stories before we came. And when they told their stories, and I experienced that with the two of you, who they are became available to them. Mm. It's almost as if when you tell your own story, who you are becomes available to yourself. And when that happens, it happens for the person who's listening too. The witness of a story, that like what we just did here. I mean, people were on their feet. It's so moving. It's where we connect through our stories. And it says about who we all are. There's a wonderful phrase, the more personal, the more universal. The more personal a story, the more universal, the more you can find yourself in it. So I bow to you for your story, but really for your life, and the choices you've now made to use your story to heal other people, to use your life to heal other people, and the same thing with you, and absolutely for you.
Before we go on, I want to point out that in just a little while, we'll be going to you for your questions. And can we point out where the mics will be set up? In either, I see, yeah, aisle there and, yes, okay. So everyone sees it but me, apparently. Okay. I'm sure you have lots of questions, and I'm eager to hear those as well, but I'm a little greedy, so I'm going to ask one more. Becca, the word community came up a lot in your presentation and throughout what we've heard this afternoon. I've been thinking about community and what I see, just my opinion, as some of the loss of community in the area where I grew up and where I now report on. Perhaps this is the haze of nostalgia, but I remember that particularly in West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky and Southern Ohio, that community bonds, family bonds, church bonds were so strong. It was, when I look back on it, it's amazing. Unfortunately, I see a lot of that now as being frayed. Again, my opinion, my observation. And I'm wondering if you share that sense in the communities where you work, and if you have notions on how we use what you are doing with community building in the broader society. We can't all have a Thistle Farm, alas, but how can we learn from what you're doing to reconnect and create community bonds where we are?
Yeah, I don't have that nostalgia at all. Isn't that funny? I mean, I never even thought about it. I feel like that community has always been there, and it is always there, and we seek it out in different ways. I mean, there's all kinds of ways people seek it out. And community has always both been healing, and it can be really, really dangerous. And for me, okay, so my dad was a pastor who was killed by a drunk driver, and he was 5, when I was 5. And then it was the guy that came in to pastor this community, this church, that first started sexually abusing me in the church. Oh. And so I think I've always known from an early age both that community, and especially it was a community of women, were such a powerhouse and such a help to me, but also community and institution can be really, really dangerous and unhealthy. Whether it's a family system community that can be unhealthy or a church community. I mean, we're talking about communities that, you know, I just never met a woman who went to the streets by herself. It's always been broken communities and systems, whether that's, you know, real community of school or, you know, or family or church, that there are broken systems and broken communities that help them get there. So it takes this idea of using the word community as being this healing and open space for people to find their way back, really non-judgmental and open communities to find their way back. And for me, I feel like that if it's really a closed community, that's the scariest. I love y'all. I love y'all. Y'all are here because we're all on the same page pretty much, and we're trying to figure out the language, and we're reminding each other so we can go back out and love the world a little better. But I do think that, thank you, just that I hope that we continue to make community as open as possible and as welcoming as possible so that it is really, really safe for our kids. When I went back and talked to confronted my abuser and his family in that whole system, the very first question they asked was, who have you told? That's the very number one major concern, is like, if we can keep this a secret, if we can keep this within our community, 1, it will never change, and 2, nobody will get in trouble. And it's like, oh, I got some bad news for you, brother. Well, I mean, it's kind of how we've made our way in this world, is telling those stories, and not to, I agree with you that all compassion can come from brokenness. When you were talking this morning, I do believe that brokenness is an ability to plant seeds of compassion, but we have to be able to speak it.